What did Muhammad think of the Jews? Take a look at this clip over here with Reverend Mark Dury talking on the John Anderson podcast, where he talks about what undergirds anti-Semitism in medieval Islam and medieval Christianity. So we'll watch it together and then talk about it. But first, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Check this out.
The teachings in the Quran and the Hadiths have many highly derogatory comments about Jews. For example, there's a tradition that Muhammad told his followers, if you find a Jew, kill him. Kill anyone who comes under your power. And the Jews are said in the Quran to be almost subhuman. Allah changed them into apes and pigs. They're said to be warmongering, but lacking in courage. They're said to be untrustworthy. You can't form a trustworthy pact with Jews. They are the source of all wars in the world. So what you see, and I read every day reports of sermons from the Middle East or from America or across Europe from Muslim sermons, is again and again these ideas in the Quran are injected into public discourse across the Muslim world, speeches by parliamentarians. There's a real belief that the Jews are evil, that they are treacherous, that they want to start wars, that you can't enter into peace agreements with them. This dehumanizes them, and it continually drives the war. Because if this is an enemy which is inherently warmongering and also cowardly at the same time, you've got no other choice really but than to fight them. So, yeah, unfortunately, the Jews and also people that have left Islam are really intensely disliked in the Quran and the Sunnah. I would say that the fundamental sources of Islam are hardwired for anti-Semitism. In addition to that, you have European anti-Semitism, for example, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. This has also influenced the Muslim world as well. But Islamic anti-Semitism is fundamentally not an import from Europe. It has its own characteristics and its own drivers. And yes, it's hugely influential.
The protocols, of course, have been shown to be a complete hoax. And yet the reality is that they're still trotted out, arguably even by New South Wales parliamentarians, making references to Jewish tentacles. The idea that they're everywhere, slimy, unseen, destroying the world, intent upon subjugation of everyone else. In fact, sounds a little like projection to me. I think you've used that term.
Yeah, I think the Islamic view is that Jews are weak, contemptible, warmongering, but cowardly. They love life more than death, and they won't fight if you're pushed. The European Christian tradition of anti-Semitism makes Jews out to be incredibly powerful, controlling the world, controlling America, controlling international finance. So those two kind of contradictory views that Jews are weak and contemptible and they're incredibly powerful and threatening, that's all been mushed up together in one kind of terrible mix at the present time. So yeah, it's very sad. And when people say all religions are the same, or they say religion is irrelevant, religion is not a cause, it's structural injustices or colonialization, these are the real issues in the world. These are attempts to suppress an understanding of religion, but the fact is that at its core, Islam is very anti-Semitic. Muhammad massacred a whole tribe of Jews. He took women to be his wives from the Jewish captives. There is kind of his example is very clear. In fact, radical Muslims often chant, "You remember Khaybar," and remember Khaybar. The armies of Muhammad are coming back to destroy the Jews. And this is citing an example where Muhammad attacked and defeated Jews. So yeah, this is part of the problem. It's a religious stream that Islam has never come to terms with. It's never really been acknowledged properly. It's never been properly renounced. And yet it goes on. It's one thing to seek the dominance of Islam over non-Muslims, that they should be subjected and become second-class citizens. But it's another thing to have at your core a whole set of texts that declare the evil character and the weakness and the troublesome nature of the Jews.
It is interesting that Christian anti-Semitism that existed in Europe throughout the Middle Ages was rooted in the fact that the Jews are all powerful, that they are involved in the government, that they have their tentacles sort of everywhere, the World Bank and so forth. And in the Islamic world, it was a hatred of Jews for the exact opposite reason, that they were powerless and they were weak and they were a castaway sort of people. And that's one of the reasons that they say that anti-Semitism is sort of a mutating virus. That doesn't mean that whatever we say is anti-Semitism is anti-Semitism. That just means that the Jews were always hated wherever they were for different reasons, and sometimes contradictory reasons for other times and places. And so when the Jews were amongst the communists said that the Jews were the capitalists, and they were to be shunned because Jews are capitalists. And vice versa, when the Jews were amongst the capitalists, they were hated because they were the communists. And so no matter what country, what region, what time, what place the Jews found themselves, they were always hated, and hated for whatever would contradict what it was in the previous generation or in a different location. The Jews were always othered for every reason under the sun. And that's why it's described as a mutating virus, that the hatred is there, and then later there is some sort of reasoning projected upon it, even though that reasoning can be contradictory generation to generation, nation to nation, and so forth. Also, the Jewish people tend to be viewed by whatever undergirds society at the time. The framing of the Jew hatred takes on that form. So when religion undergirds society until, let's say, the Renaissance, the Enlightenment period, when religion undergirds society, the Jews are hated on religious grounds. The Jewish people are the Christ killers. Jewish people are a damned people. They are the synagogue of Satan. They are an othered people based on religious terms. And then during the Enlightenment, when science becomes the sort of a backdrop in which people view the world, then the Jews become the ones that are racially inferior. That there's something genetically inferior about them, that they are cast aside not on religious grounds, but on scientific grounds, the nature of them as a people. And then when the world shifts from science being the thing that solely undergirds the society and becomes things of like social justice, for example, when social justice becomes the rubric which all reality is measured according to, the Jews are seen negatively in a sociological, in a social justice sort of way. And the Jews are Israel is the evil nation state that is executing a genocide and starvation and colonialists and so forth, because every time the Jews are looked upon by any group and in any generation, they are always get the other end of whatever is undergirding society, or whatever society is going by. The Jews are othered in the same way, in the opposite way. And so that can be contradictory, depending on where you are and what time you find yourself. But that's the nature of the mutating virus. And so, unfortunately, you see that clearly. I don't think anti-Semitism is going away anytime soon. But it's something that when we realize that the hatred comes first and then the justification comes later, I hope that those that are of reasonable mindset can see that there's a certain fallacy going on over here. If you like this content overall, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Take care.